Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm 18 years old and I play soccer.
My name is Alyssa Lyman and I'm 26 years old. Growing up, I was a competitive gymnast and ran track, but after I graduated college, I got into skiing.
Hi, I'm Estelle Clark. I'm a park snowboarder and I'm 17 years old.
Hi, my name is Mia Brownson. I'm 17 years old and I play basketball.
My name is Mike Cobbs. I am 17, a senior, and I play football.
Hi, my name is Tara. I'm 30 years old. I currently live on Long Island, New York, but I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia.
Hi guys, my name is Addison Hawthorne, and this is my senior project. I did this so that I can show athletes that are injured that they're not alone. And I also did it as an injury prevention to show athletes and teach athletes like to take care of themselves and that these things do happen and that they're real things that people go through. And with my journey, I play girls basketball.
Ever since I was a little girl, my parents gave me the opportunity to try out many sports. And when I tried out soccer, I loved the aspect of being outside. It was so refreshing. The aspect of being on a team was encouraging, competitive, and motivating. And I fell in love with it. I've had occasional shin splints, plantar fasciitis, muscle strains and cramps, but nothing was ever too serious. It wasn't until my freshman year of high school that I started out track along with my club season of soccer. And every year since then, my injury has become more frequent and has had a longer recovery time in between.
I learned how to ski as a kid and went a few times over the years, but it wasn't really something I got into until about 5 years ago. Life leading up to my injury was busy. I was finishing up a master's degree in speech language pathology and a team director for a competitive gymnastics team in the middle of beach season. During all that, I was still sneaking in any quick trip I could to go ski.
I started park snowboarding about 4 years ago, and I was already into skating and skiing, so it was like a really natural transition for me. And I started competing my second season and became obsessed really quickly. 2 years ago, I started at a snowboarding school in Vermont, and last year I moved out to Oregon to continue riding and training and doing more competitions. And I go to a school out here for snowboarding. And yeah, it's just the biggest part of my life and I really like it.
I originally started playing ball when I was about 5 or 6 years old. I fell in love with it at a very young age. It was something that I just absolutely poured my heart into. It was something I never want to give up. I started becoming very serious about wanting to play in college and be recognized for it when I was about, I think in like 8th grade, freshman year. I did play soccer growing up. That was kind of the only other sport I played, but it wasn't, my personal love. I still loved soccer, but it wasn't something I was serious about. I had a good freshman season. Went and played AAU throughout that summer after freshman year.
How I got into football was pretty simple. My dad played through college. He played at Portland State, and the second I was born, he tried to get me into football. I've been playing since kindergarten. It's kind of been my life since I can remember. I can remember a time I wasn't playing football really, and I fell in love with the sport almost instantly. I have never thought about quitting. I mean, it's been 13 years of my life, and it's been huge. And honestly, I've loved it, and there hasn't been a moment where I've truly hated it. Practice to be hard, and I get, a little tired, but no, I've never once said I don't want to do this. And I thought I would do it for the rest of my life. And I'm glad I had the chance to play it this long. It's been amazing.
I got into soccer pretty early, but I come from a very active and athletic family. My mom was a swimmer, gymnast, cheerleader. My sister was a gymnast and a cheerleader. My brother pretty much played everything. My dad was also the same way. He played pretty much everything. So I liked soccer, but I wanted to see if I liked anything else more than that. I was a dual athlete up until my sophomore year, and then I completely committed to playing soccer pretty much full time. I played college soccer, and then when that phase was over, I was still playing soccer. I was playing in an all-female Latin league. I played on a co-ed league, indoor and outdoor, and then I played on an all-women's league, which was outdoor as well. So pretty much if you had a soccer ball, I was trying to play. And life leading up to my injury was kind of chaotic. Just for context, I tore my ACL in June of 2025. I got married in November of 2025. So 2025 was an extremely difficult year, an extremely busy year for various reasons. So not the most opportune time to tear your ACL, but is there ever really an opportune time?
I have been playing basketball since I think I was 5 or 6 years old. And, like, throughout my entire life, I kind of knew that, like, that was a sport I wanted to play. And, like, that was just the sport that I fell in love with. And, like, I've played for so many different teams, like, so many different schools teams and youth programs growing up. And I always wanted something that's, like, ultra competitive. And I finally found that my like, 6th grade year with Team Fly, and I was playing up on their, I think, 7th or 8th grade team at that rate. And I just stayed with them for as long as I could because, like, they were so much fun. And then I ended up making varsity as a swinger my freshman year. And that was very eye-opening. Like, you know, I might have what it takes to do something. And I continued on my sophomore year. And throughout my freshman year actually, I tore my meniscus during a game. And I never went to the doctor, never got an MRI, never did anything because I was told that, like, it was all okay. Like, didn't really seem like it, all these things. And then my sophomore year, I also ended up, I pulled my IT band. And I was always not necessarily injury prone, but I was known for, like, pushing myself past my limit. Because I always felt like I had something to prove and I had a chip on my shoulder and I wanted to, like, make right by my team at all times. And then at the end of my sophomore year, I went back to Fly for their spring summer program because they were a really, like, competitive environment that I wanted to be around.
I strained my hip flexor. Once I was doing 2 heavy running sports at the same time, my muscles became weak due to overuse. Each year from my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, it always came back, and it was a lot more painful each time, and it was a longer recovery. After my junior year, it lasted all the way through the summer, and I was still having that injury throughout my high school season of my senior year, and also I was joining an entirely new club team at that time. And I was really scared because I didn't know if I was going to be able to even make the team or play for my high school.
On March 5th, 2023, I ruptured my right ACL skiing. I felt just right that my skis planted and my body kept going, and I heard and felt it pop. A few weeks after, it was reconstructed using a bone patella bone autograft.
About 10 months ago, I was on a training trip at Mammoth Mountain in California, and I fell short of the correct landing on a pretty large jump, and that caused me to, like, face a lot of impact, and my knee couldn't really handle it, and so I ended up completely tearing my ACL, and I had a partial tear in both my medial meniscus and lateral meniscus.
Right before sophomore year, I was in a AAU tournament. We call it fall ball, basically. I was on my 3rd game of the day. I think it was about around September. September of 2023, I ended up tearing my left ACL. That kept me out for about a little over a year. I was going up for a layup in a game. My knees already had felt swollen and just didn't feel good, didn't feel right. I still kept playing. It was the 3rd game of the day. My 2 bones, they call it a bone contusion, they hit. And my left ACL tore. I had surgery the next month, so in about October, end of October.
My junior year, so last year I tore my ACL. I was rolling out to my left and I was looking for a pass. No one was open. I planted, tried to spin, and my leg locked out and my leg pops and I tear my ACL. I fractured my tibia bone. It was a rough injury. It was horrible. It was raining. Game should have been over, like, lightning should have finish the game. There was lightning strikes and it didn't end. So, rolling out and just trying to make something happen and tearing it like that was terrible. But, I'd hope for senior year. And, it sucked to see my team struggle without somewhat a leader, a captain of the team. And, wishing I could have been on the, field, hoping and, I guess, completely changing the outcome. We only have a few kids on our team, so it didn't help to lose, a upperclassman starter on both sides of the ball. It was horrible. And this year, senior year, first game, once again, I tore my ACL. It was the third quarter, and I dropped back. I threw an interception, and I'm running back to make the tackle at an angle, and a guy, he cuts back, and once again, I plant and spin, and right ACL tears once again in front of my home crowd. I'm laying on the ground, and just everything's going through my head, knowing that this was my last opportunity, and it was horrible. In an instant. First game, 2 years in a row, 364 days apart, I tore my ACL, and never would have thought that would have happened.
So I ruptured my ACL in my left leg and had a root tear of my lateral meniscus. My MCL was also torn, and I also had the LAT procedure in this left leg. So I was actually training a group of athletes. They were a travel team that I was coaching at the time, but they had all committed to playing college. So we were having a practice or training session, and both of my goalkeepers had committed to play collegiately. So in my mind, I took this bad touch on a ball on a striking drill that we were running for them, and in my mind, my keepers need to not be afraid to come out and get the ball. So I knew I wasn't going to score. I did know that part. But in my mind, I was like, I want to make sure that my athlete feels prepared, that when they go into collegiate ball, that some striker isn't just going to pull off just because it's a little bit too far out. They still might try. So I wanted my keepers to have that confidence to go and charge on the ball. And when I went to go strike on this ball, again, I knew I wasn't really going to score. I had planted and I was hitting towards the net, but I was pulling away, so that way I knew I would not hit my keeper. And when I planted, my knee went inward and I tore it. And the best part is that I recorded it. So it's horrible. Hate watching it. But so yeah, I tore it or I ruptured it, and when I hit the ground, I really didn't think I had done my ACL, but I knew that what I had done was serious. I had done enough injuries in other arenas that I knew that it was serious. I just didn't know what I did. And I went to ortho the next day. Being a nurse, I kind of, was like, hey, I just need to get in. I need to get in. And they do their testing, and it didn't hurt. I think in my mind, I expected that when they go to test if your ACL is there, I thought that was really going to hurt me, and it didn't. And so I had fully convinced myself that I did not do anything to it. And the doctor looks at me and goes, do you want to know now, or do you want to know after we confirm with the MRI? And I was like, go ahead and tell me now, because I was so confident. And they looked at me and said, yeah, you have absolutely no ACL. It's gone. You'll be needing surgery. And said it just like that. And I remember just really being struck. I'd never had anything to that magnitude happen to me before, so I was speechless. Obviously hysterically crying, because I'm now 29 years old with a ruptured ACL, who's about to get married in 6 months. So all of this was like playing in my head of like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? But of course I had surgery. It was just a lot to take in. And now when I see patients at my job I can almost immediately put myself in their headspace of, if they haven't been diagnosed yet, to just, how they're thinking of everything. And it's definitely a new level of empathy that I have that is both productive, but in a weird way, kind of like triggering, if that makes sense. I hate using that word, but it is kind of like that.
So my sophomore year, going into my junior year, I was up at a really, really big tournament in Arizona. And, we had played for a couple days, and I felt like I was, like, really proving myself to my coaches. And I did have some college coaches that, were interested in me, and they thought that I was playing well and all these things. And then my dad had a conversation with my assistant coach and kind of told him that I felt like I was never good enough for the team, and that I really felt like, I wasn't being given a shot that I needed. And he kind of got in my head too with, like, I felt like I had something to prove, even though I was doing everything that I could and I was playing, like, good basketball. And then I remember, like, I had butchered my ankle, like, in the past. Like, I had rolled my ankle really bad at a previous tournament, and started this day. It's probably, like, our second or third day there. I think it was our last day there. And it's our last game of the night, and we weren't winning. Like, we weren't winning in the tournament. We were winning that game. We were up, and I was playing really, really good defense. I was doing good things for my team. My coaches were playing me really well. And I rolled my ankle really bad. Like, really, really bad. Like, could not stand up bad. And the ref was like, no, sorry, like, I have to call a ref timeout. You have to go get looked at by the trainer. So I was like, okay. So I went and got looked at, and the trainer, because my dad was there, and the trainer was kind of like, listen, like, I'd rather you not play on it, but if you think that you can, then go do it. I was always known for pushing through things anyways, so I was planning on going back in regardless. And we go back, and it's a big argument between me, my assistant coach, and my head coach, because my assistant coach is like, we're losing now that she's not in, like, we need to put her in, we need her defense, because I was one of the best defenders on my team. And my head coach was like, I don't want to risk it, like, no. And then finally, my assistant coach kind of looks at me and is like, do you think you could do it? And I'm like, yeah, I do, but I don't think I was the most reliable person to ask at that moment. And he puts me back in without my head coach's approval. And when I go in, I go through a couple of possessions, and we didn't really have, like, major height on our team. So and this other team is tall. So I got put on, like, a 6'5" girl. And she's way taller than I am, way bigger than I am, way stronger than I am. And I'm playing defense on her down in the paint, so down in the post. And I'm kind of, like, on her hip a little bit. And I just remember, like, it was like everything in this moment was going in slow motion. One of her teammates passes her the ball. It's a bounce pass. And I took one step off her hip to go deflect the ball because I thought that I could. And it was the opposite leg that I had rolled my ankle on. So my leg was already compensating. And I just remember in that one step, I took it, and I just felt a pop. And I remember, like, I went home, and I couldn't get up my stairs. So I went to the doctor, and they, like, could not tell me anything. Like, I went to my doctor, and he was like, well, until your leg is straight, like, until you could fully extend your leg, I can't do anything to help you. And I'm like, well, that's great because I can't. So this tournament happened in, like, June or July. I did not end up finding out that I tore my ACL fully. Like, I got an MRI somewhere between then and the start of the school year. So somewhere between July and September. And I got an MRI, and the MRI showed a full tear. Like, my ACL was gone, and my meniscus was torn.
I wish I had listened to my body and rested when I needed to.
In terms of things I wish I did differently, I definitely wish I took my recovery more seriously those first few weeks following surgery. My priority was getting through my last semester of grad school, and my only real goal was walking brace-free at graduation. I also been an athlete all my life, so I had trusted that over time I'd be fine.
Of course, like, I wish I had just gone a little faster and I could have avoided this, but like, I understand that injuries are a big part of this sport and it's dangerous, and like it's really hard to avoid injuries completely, and so I've kind of accepted that this is just part of it.
Something I wish I had done differently though was to take the early stages of rehab very seriously. Unfortunately, I didn't move my leg enough. I didn't get full extension or full flexion yet the first 10 weeks, which led me to have another surgery in March of 2024 for a cyclops lesion, which is basically just scar tissue removal, to gain full range of motion, full extension, which is very, very important in the early stages of rehab.
But yeah, so that really sucked. Something I would have done differently, I guess, post-op would be just really taking it more serious. I mean, last year I took it a lot more serious because I had something to work forward to, and like I had something I needed to do and get back. I had time set. Like, I think if I just flipped the switch of, I have an excuse, like people would understand if I didn't do great. I think if I could beat those expectations of me not coming back or this or that, just getting into the mindset of I can be better. I can always do that. I wish I had that more. I think I realized that I didn't have a lot of people around me who really wanted to win. So it felt difficult to think, why am I doing this for them? And I wish I had the different mindset, because I did have a group. I had my physical therapist, I had my parents, I had my family, my friends. I had a true group, and I wish I kind of just listened to them when they said things like, you can do it again.
I wish I had eased myself back into physical activities. So in 2025, I went from having 0 surgeries to having 3. I had a surgery in May that was completely unrelated to my knee, and no way, shape, or form affected my knee. But I had a surgery in May, and that had been an ongoing issue for a while that was eventually surgically addressed. So because I had surgery, they were like, you can't go to the gym, you can't play soccer, you can't do these other things. Pretty much you're allowed to walk at your job was essentially what I was told. So, I'd taken some time out of the gym and out of soccer because that's what they needed from me, and I was okay with that. But then it had been some time. We went for my post-op appointment, and I was like, okay, can I go back to my life now? Like, as an athlete, like, you're used to just the go, go, go. And they gave me the green light. They were like, yep. So they cleared me on a Thursday. I went to gym on Friday. I went to the gym on Saturday. I played a full entire soccer game on Sunday. Went to the gym on Monday, played a full softball game on Tuesday. Wednesday was when I was training my athletes, and that was when I tore my ACL. So just like too much physical demand, a lot of fatigue on the body that my body wasn't ready to do all that. But there's a phrase that I use when I coach, and it kind of started as a joke, but then we had started to use it more. But it was a phrase, delusional confidence. And I was delusionally confident that I thought at the age of 30, after taking 6 to 8 weeks off, that I could just go back to my athletic life like it didn't happen. And as a nurse, part of me kind of kicks myself because I feel like I should have known that, like, you can't just do that. But I was so used to bouncing back so quickly from my injuries that I just thought, okay, I'm going back to my life. They said I was okay, so like I'm okay. So I wish I had just taken more time to come back to sport, or even just like ease my way into like doing all these physical activities, because that probably wasn't smart on my end. But I was excited. I wanted to go back to doing the things in the same way you have that desire, like post-op from your ACL, you just want to go back to your life. And I don't blame soccer. I just blame my body for not being ready to do what I asked of it. Like, I asked you to do that. You should have done it. But it is what it is, and unfortunately things happen.
There's a lot in my journey that, I wish that I would have done differently, or I wish I would have paused and, asked questions and stuff. And I think, like, as a young woman, in my opinion, I feel like the healthcare system is set up against us. And like there was so many times that I just felt like no one was advocating for me and what I wanted, you know? And I regret pushing my body the way that I did. I regret going back in that game. I regret letting people get in my head and make me feel like I wasn't good enough. You know, I regret not switching physical therapy sooner when I knew it wasn't right for me. And more than that, I regret not advocating for myself in my healthcare system the way that I should have, and telling them like, hey, like we need to figure this out because there's no way I should be taking this long to find out what's wrong with me. You know, to be in my head and not know what's going on.
This injury took a big toll on me mentally. My entire life changed overnight, and I became so focused on everything I wasn't able to do, it took away from everything that I still could have been doing.
This injury had a lot more of an impact on my mental health than I honestly thought it would. And I feel like snowboarding became my outlet for everything, and I had to really learn how to live without that outlet and find other things to do and hobbies, just because I didn't have that. And it was really hard to figure that out and figure out who I was without snowboarding. It was also really hard to watch other people progressing and getting better at snowboarding when I was sidelined and couldn't do anything, and I felt like I was missing out on so much. But probably the hardest part mentally was the rehab, because it was painful and a lot of hard work, and it was just hard to imagine the result of snowboarding again because that was so far away. But I pushed through even though it was really hard at times.
This injury specifically caused me to be very, very depressed. They call it sports depression. It was something that, I took very seriously, this game, the love of the game. And when that got kind of taken from me, it was extremely difficult to deal with. Either way, it was a loss for me. Just like other athletes, you lose a part of yourself a little bit, especially when you pour your heart and soul and your everyday life into this, and it kind of gets stripped away.
But yeah, mentally it's messed with me a lot, I had a lot of expectations for myself and from people as a captain, as the quarterback, as a starter on defense. People looked to me for answers. My dad was a coach, so that, people looked at me for everything. And we had a lot of younger kids. They knew me from the start. I would introduce myself. I've been playing this game for so long. I had so much expectations, and to fail those, it stopped me from thinking I am who I am for a bit. I couldn't really live the life I wanted to. And even now, it's still kind of hard not to, go play basketball or, just throw the ball around with my friends. I can't do that as easily. It sucked. I'm still now, even knowing it's over, it's I didn't get my chance. It sucks to think that my life could be completely different. Who knows where I'm at right now? Maybe I'm in college playing sports, or if I'm still here, if I'm not doing it. I never got to really get that answer to see if I was good enough, and it sucked.
It severely affected me mentally. Sometimes I feel like this has been more of a mental injury than a physical one. Like I was kind of saying earlier, I mean, when you have this injury, you know that your knee will be affected. You know that your walking might be affected. You know that you might not drive for a little while. But the depth that it affects you, both in a tangible way and a non-tangible way, is sometimes earth-shattering. And that sounds almost dramatic, but it is. And I'm almost 9 months out. I'm, back to work. I pretty much do everything that I'm doing, or that I was doing before, I should say. But even now at 9 months, I just spoke to my trainer the other day, and I was like, I'm just sick and tired of doing rehab. At 9 months, I'm still doing rehab. If I'm not in the gym doing my strength training stuff, I'm at home stretching. I'm at home doing isos. I'm at home doing the Theragun. I'm at home doing the compression boots to prevent swelling or to combat swelling that I put in it from working out. you know, you still, at least for me, I have some good days and I have some bad days, but like pretty much every day I'm thinking about my knee. It's just exhausting. It's exhausting to constantly think of this thing and you're just like, how is this not better by now? Like, and I think the crazy part too is as an athlete, a lot of your lifestyle as an athlete is tangible in the sense of like, okay, I need to run a mile in 6 minutes. Okay, I ran it in 5:45. Perfect. Love it. Great. With your ACL rehab, you do have goals, but like the ending to which when it's done is really not like, it's really not real. And I say it's not real because even at 9 months, like I said, I'm still doing rehab, but like who's to say it doesn't take me 12 more months to get my knee back to the same functioning capacity it was prior. It could take me 3 more months. It could take me, 6 more months. It could be that I get all the functioning back, but I still have these weird sensations that I sometimes get for the rest of my life. It's constantly knowing that for the rest of my life, I'm going to have to rehab and keep rehabbing and working on this knee that I have. And if it's not this knee, it'll be my non-surgical knee that I'm working on because I need that to be just as strong as this new one that I have. So it's just this never ending mental load of like the obstacles that you face, the physical part of what you're going through, whether it be pain or just the physicality of you can't do what you were asked or you can't do what you're asking of your body. And also the mental fatigue of like, you never know when it's going to end. And if I were to stop my rehab right now, I'm accepting the state of which my knee is in now, which is not good. It is not enough. Not enough for me anyway, if I ever want to return back to sport or even want to just do physical stuff. I'm still not running yet. I'm still meeting benchmarks to get into that process. So if I were to quit my rehab right now, my knee's just going to be exactly what it is right now. And that's not good enough. So it's just like really mentally daunting to have to think about that every single day. Every day you think about your knee. It's like an anxious thought, almost like you can't get rid of. And then you're physically reminded of it in these random ways of like, oh, I still can't do that. Or, oh, like this still kind of bothers my knee or whatever. It's just tiring in a way that cannot be described accurately to others unless you have experienced this on your own. Yeah, it's tough. And I had when I was coaching up until I tore my ACL, and I had 3 or 4 athletes that I was training that had torn their ACL in that time frame. And, when you, as a coach and as a person, when you hear about this injury, it's going to be tough, right? I think I was 7 days into my journey and I messaged each of those, athletes of mine. And I was like, you have a brand new, sorry, that was my dog. You have a brand new respect for that person. And that's what I told him. I was like, I'm 7 days in and I didn't know this was what you were going through. And I'm sorry if I didn't support you. I'm sorry if I didn't say the right things, but I genuinely struggled, in those first couple weeks. And I felt like I owed them that respect and recognition to say, this is hard.
Honestly, injuries themselves are so defeating. And as someone who already struggled with anxiety and depression going into it, it was another big struggle. It makes you feel so alone. And no one is there to support you or knows what you're going through. And it in itself is just draining. You don't know what's going on. You don't know when you're going to be back. And it makes you feel like nothing you do is good enough. No win. You have focused your whole life going into it, probably focusing on the big wins in your life. The big things that you do. And going into your injury, you have to learn how to see small wins as wins. And that was hard. Like everything about it, it made you not want to try. Like if something didn't go your way, like it made you want to give up, and it made you want to say, this is it for me.
This injury affected all aspects of my life. I wasn't able to coach my team for months. I couldn't go for runs or go to the gym the way I used to. I've always been a very active person, and I wasn't able to do all the things that make me me.
This injury honestly affected every part of my life, and my summer and fall semester of school looked completely different than I expected. I had to cancel so much of my training plans, and my day-to-day life looked completely different than before. Like, I had long drives to rehab pretty much every day, and I wasn't riding every day, which is what I was used to. And like this change in lifestyle brought a lot of new opportunities for me throughout the year of recovery, but I definitely had to miss out on a lot, which was pretty hard.
Overall, this kind of changed me though for the better. I started making sure I don't take anything for granted. It's a little dehumanizing, this process, just because, you know, you can't do anything on your own. You can't even go to the bathroom on your own. You can't walk on your own. It felt very isolating to go through. You know, I live in an apartment, so couldn't go up the stairs or down the stairs by myself, so it was very isolating for me. I switched to online school, which was a big shift. For me personally, I stopped going to regular school for the next 2 years and kind of took my rehab very, very seriously to come back to sports. I did come back, and I think it was about October or September of 2024, so about a year since I had my surgery and a few months since my second surgery. And I played my whole junior season, didn't miss a game, and then I just had played my my senior season of basketball.
I mean, it affected my life in so many ways, I guess. Like, I mean, I found a new hobby in videography and camera stuff, and that completely switched everything in my life. I'm still around sports, and that's what I want to do with my life now. I want to stay around sports and the camera stuff. And I built a pretty good name for myself, which is amazing, and honestly has kept me going a little bit. And I mean, not being able to play sports is something any athlete would hate to say it coming out of their mouth, like, I can't play sports right now, or I can't do that, I can't do this. It's horrible to have to sit out and just watch from the sideline and do all that. But like, I mean, I'm mentally right now, it's like 50-50. Like, it's bittersweet. I'm hurt that I can't do this again, but I'm also happy that, you know, I had the chances to do these things and I was able to do all of this, and I just finally, it took me a bit to get over it, I guess. I mean, this was insane. Like, it was such a shock to everybody too, telling people I toured again. It all sucked, just to say that. I mean, I got attention that I liked. That was nice. That was really nice. But it wasn't all bad, you know? I still got to go be with friends. I still got to be a part of the team. I still can live life. I just can't run or do sports, which kind of is my life, but I still get to live. Like, nothing's over, like, right now. My life's not over. I figured that out pretty quickly. Talking to my amazing physical therapist, Logan, he was a huge help, and my parents, my dad especially, he, like, flipped the switch in my head, like, you know, you got to keep going. Life doesn't stop because I'm hurt. I stop doesn't mean everything else stops. I got to keep going. But yeah, I mean, I think that was huge.
It affected every part of my life. I made like a really brief list. Showering. I couldn't shower alone. I had to have like a shower chair. I had to have my mom in the room or my husband in the room, because as a nurse, I knew that you were most likely to fall and be injured getting out of the shower. So that was something that took a little bit of getting used to, and kind of like the repetition to where I felt comfortable. But like showering in a shower chair at the age of 30 was not on the bucket list. The bathroom in general is difficult to maneuver once you tear your ACL for various reasons. I don't have to explain it to people that went through it. It's horrific. Learning how to walk again was not on my bucket list for 29/30. I turned 30 in October of 2025. Learning how to walk was not on my bucket list. My job. I couldn't work for almost 3 months. So I don't have any income for 3 months in the year of my wedding. That's a big hit in a regular scenario that you don't have income for 3 months. Now, added to not having the income for 3 months in addition to you getting married in that same year. It affected my wedding. It affected, how I kind of made the timeline of my wedding a little bit so that I may or may not have breaks. It affected the shoes that I had picked specifically for my wedding dress. I didn't know if I was going to be able to wear those. I almost changed my wedding dress itself because how I felt I looked in my wedding dress prior to tearing my ACL, I felt different in it after I tore it. I lost pretty much all of my definition in that left leg after my surgery, and I just felt like my dress didn't look the same. And that really bothered me because this is, your dream day for you and your partner. I worried about it for my partner. I worried if my husband was going to have to change how he thought his day was going to go because of how my leg was going to respond. So I had to have my bachelorette party in a brace. That was not on the bucket list. I couldn't drive. That in itself is really hard. I couldn't cook for myself. I couldn't make my coffee for myself. Sleeping is basically non-existent for the first month. Everything is uncomfortable. Sitting is uncomfortable. Laying is uncomfortable. Everything is just uncomfortable. It affects your relationships with your friends because you're different now. Your life is different. How you functioned and moved prior to tearing your ACL is now completely different from now that you've torn it. Your friends, are they coming to your house? Are they picking you up? Are they still including you? Are your friends only your friends because they're your sport friends? Are your friends only your friends because you have these physical things in common and you don't have other things in common? The way that people show up for you may be different or different than you expect. I think how people show up for you varies due to how they think you want them to show up, or if they think you need them to show up, if they think they're being a bother. So your expectations of other people during this difficult time is telling for yourself and telling for the people in your circle. It affects literally every single part of your life in ways that you can never imagine. Even as a nurse, having a unique kind of perspective on things is I know medicine. I've been in medicine and I still was not able to predict some of the obstacles that I encountered. And even when I experienced them, I kind of thought prior to even starting the journey, before even having surgery, I thought, I'm smart. I'm a nurse. I think I can problem solve. I think I'll be okay. And I encountered things that I was just what? I didn't see that coming. And that's hard. So if and not in a minimizing way, but if it was hard for me, I can't imagine how other people feel going through this journey, because I felt partially prepared and I learned quickly I was severely unprepared. So I cannot imagine how others felt. I've obviously gotten that perspective now a little bit just through, friend circles or chats or whatever. But yeah, it's gratifying to say the least. And it oddly kind of made me more positive, which I didn't think was going to be my experience. If you had asked me, do you think you're going to come out a more grateful person at the end? I probably would have been no. Or maybe I probably would have been even caught off guard by the question of how do you think I'm going to get a positive out of this? But it has. It has made me a more positive person and a more grateful person. And I think even more relaxed in some regard, if that makes sense. But I won't bore you with that part.
After my injury, I was not the same person I was, immediately going into it. And I completely took step backs from everything. Like, I stopped finding joy in all parts of my life. I stopped wanting to hang out with people. I stopped wanting to be around and present. You know, I was very irritable. Like, nothing made me happy anymore. Because, like, the one thing that acted as a release for me and the one thing that made me happy more than anything was gone. Like, I didn't have that anymore. I couldn't just go play basketball and take it all out on the court like I was able to. And I pushed friends away. I pushed family away. I stopped talking to people. You know, I stopped listening to people. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And, like, it, to me, was just like, I wanted to give up. I'm like, maybe this just isn't for me anymore, you know?
My advice is if you're injured, let your body rest and heal completely and fully. Do your physical therapy, but most of all, be kind to yourself.
I would tell other athletes to just keep on pushing and working hard, and like even when recovery feels really far away, it will come with like patience and hard work, so you have to just keep working. And my other advice is to focus on the wins, because it's really easy to focus on all the things you're missing out on and the things you can't do, but it feels so much better to just focus on the small wins every day, focus on what you can do in the moment, and you can do it.
If I could say anything to injured athletes, it would be to trust the process and really focus on yourself when you have the time to. It's very easy to push yourself aside in this process and focus on hitting the goal rather than hitting the little milestones along the way. It is very, very important, not only for yourself, but for your confidence, to celebrate your wins, no matter how big or small, which is something that my PT taught me, is to always celebrate yourself. It's a very long process, yes, but it's very, very easy to get caught up in the dream and fall in love with the idea of getting back rather than celebrating your milestones along the way. So if I had to say anything to an injured athlete, I'd be to celebrate yourself.
To other injured athletes, I would say, why did you work this hard? Why did you, okay, I'm restarting that. How can I figure, hold on. My fault, Addie, hold on. You think of how I can say this. To other injured athletes, I would say, you worked this hard for so long, or even if it's not that long of a time, you've worked hard for everything. Why give up now? Just because of one slight injury or one huge injury, whatever it is. It's a setback. You can come back. You can do so much more. Like, honestly, that first game before I tore it, I felt better than the year before. Everything felt perfect. Everything was fine. And I felt alive. I was perfect out there. Everything was better. Everything was enhanced. I felt like I've worked so hard to this point, I finally get to use it. And I'm back. Like, I get to do this thing again. And sure, it happened again, but like, even now, I'm feeling stronger than last year when I was doing this workout. I'm already stronger. I'm doing better. Life doesn't end right away. In the moment, it feels like, everything is so heavy on you. But that doesn't, it doesn't have to be. Everyone understands it, but that doesn't mean you have to stop. Beat those expectations of, oh, he's hurt or she's hurt. Like, be the one that overcomes those obstacles that stop your grind, stop your motivation, all that. Keep the discipline, anything like that. You need to keep going. That's the biggest thing I think I didn't say is, I guess, keep going. Yeah, I mean, you're probably younger. I mean, I'm guessing, like, if you're a young athlete, like, dude, this is your chance to do something, and you only get one chance, really. You only get one life. You only get one true opportunity to do things. So don't let one little injury that has, like, no effect on the rest of your life really, like, mess you up. Go keep doing your thing. Keep living your life. Keep doing whatever you can to just keep going. And, just keep grinding, keep working. But, yeah.
My number one, do not Google medical questions. Please. Do not Google them. I would say 95% of the time, Dr. Google is wrong. And here's why. It's not wrong for the reasons that you think. three situations will all be different. If you are a 30-year-old that is very active with no kids, my journey is very different from a 30-year-old who has two kids that works from home, that is different from a 30-year-old who is kind of active, not really, may or may not have kids in the near future, probably won't return to sports, but kind of unsure, and has like a mildly active job. Like, those three circumstances are all very different, and they will all be treated differently, and their rehabs will be different, and their resources are different. When people Google medical questions, Google is not considering all of these things that you have going on. If you're 20, if you want to play again, if you don't want to play again, if you've had other surgeries, where your graft was, how far out you are, do you take other medications, do you have other like, there are so many things, and that's why medicine is not one size fits all. It never will be. It currently is not. And that's why, doctors and physicians and PTs, like, that's why they want you to talk to them, because you talking to 30-year-old me is going to be different from talking to 25-year-old her or 28-year-old him. It's just not a one size fits all type of scenario when it comes to ACLs and anything medicine for that matter. So please do not get on Google and ask it questions. Please just ask your physician, ask your PT, ask your OT, but do not go to Google and ask these questions, because 95% of the time it is wrong. And the rest of the time it's like, my last thing I would tell just athletes in general, fall in love with the process. I think growing up, being an athlete and now being a coach, a majority of the time people train or go to the gym for your sport, and your sport only. However, being in this situation and being a nurse, you are not physically able to do things for a long period of time, aka 30, 40, 50, 60, if you are not physically training your body to do those things. Running and lifting and stretching and the ISOs and all of these things, they're not just good for being a soccer player. They're not just good for being a D1 basketball player. It is good for the rest of your life. And where you maintain that bar will be different in those different stages. However, it's loving that process of maintaining or, just the gym in general and not just the sport. The love of the process and the love of working out, or at least the appreciation for working out and what your body does for it, is way more important, in my opinion, than loving your sport. I don't know what my ACL journey has for me. However, what I do know is that if I can't do soccer, I could probably play softball. I could probably play slow pitch softball, more than likely. So it's being able to appreciate the body and what it can do for you, but not in just the sport aspect. I'm really working towards, and I hope to continue on in the future when I'm coaching, to remind my kids of that soccer may not be forever. And if it is, that's great. But loving what your body can do is way more important overall. And just keeping it ready to do things. On the nursing side, I've seen some 80 and 90-year-olds that look better than some 40-year-olds. Strictly because they take care of themselves. They're active. They're, outside. They eat well. They take care of their bodies and they appreciate it. So I think it's just important that we get away from the just being an athlete part and being appreciative of just being physically able. I think that's what my ACL journey has made me look at a lot, is just being like, well, I'm able to blank. I'm able to sit here comfortably. I'm able to drive. Every morning when I wake up and I make my cup of coffee, I'm like, I'm able to do that without it being a whole episode. And I think that is something that I find really important and gratifying, and kind of the positivity part of, I take so much joy in just the small things. Walking my dog, walking around the neighborhood, being able to go and do things with my friends and not have to have like my whole, crutch and brace and all that. Um, yeah.
And honestly, like it teaches you so many hard lessons in life. And like I had to learn it the hard way. And it's lessons that, I wanted to try to teach to athletes through this and convey through this whole video and through this project and through this journey that I've gone through. And the biggest thing is like, listen to yourself. Listen to your body, because your body knows when it needs to stop and it knows when it needs a break. And like, don't take the unnecessary risk of going back in, because like what I had to learn the hard way is your teammates would much rather have you for another game than lose you for a whole season. Like they would much rather have you sit one out and come back than not sit one out and not come back. And it's not about disappointing other people. Like your teammates and your family and your friends want what's best for you, and they're always going to prefer that you put your health first and that you take care of yourself.
My name is Logan Walters, and I am a physical therapist. I actually decided to be a physical therapist when I was in high school. At the time, I just knew that I really wanted to work with athletes, and I wanted to work in the medical field. So when I started Googling what kind of jobs I could be, it was either an athletic trainer or a physical therapist. And I basically flipped a coin at the time. So there wasn't that much thought behind it when I made this decision when I was 17 years old. So I went to a school where I could go to undergrad and PT school to get my doctorate all in the same place. So I got to do it all in 6 years instead of doing 4 years in one place and then 3 years in another place. So that made it really nice. When I was in college, that's when I toured both of my ACLs, my freshman and sophomore year, playing basketball. And when I did that and went through the rehab process, that really is what drove me to actually really want to be a physical therapist and to actually really help athletes. So I ended up specializing in working with athletes, especially ones with ACL injuries. After college, I went and did another year of schooling and did a residency program where I specialized and got a sports residency and a sports specialist certification. So basically, all I do is work with athletes now in this physical therapy realm. In person, with my business, Talos, I work here in Huntersville, North Carolina, and I see athletes with basically any type of orthopedic or sport injury. So it could be any ankle, knee, hip, back, shoulder. It doesn't matter. If it's somebody that is an athlete and has goals and wants to get back to competing at a high level, I'm here to help them. I also work as a remote ACL coach, which is how I worked with Addie. When she was in Oregon, I was in North Carolina. I work with people from all over the world as a remote ACL coach, which is really cool because a lot of people out there just don't get the rehab help that they need after an ACL injury. So I help build them programs and guide them back to whatever their sport and their goal is. Most athletes, whenever we'll say ACLs for these injuries that are longer injuries, so ACLs, Achilles injuries, anything that keeps them out of sport for a really long time. A lot of athletes underestimate how hard it is at the beginning. And I think it should be talked about more on how challenging the process can be and how important it is to get specialized help from somebody that truly understands their injury and understands what they need as an athlete, which is a big gap that's missed. A lot of athletes get injured, but then they don't get treated like athletes. They go to generic physical therapy and they get treated to be good enough, but that's not good enough for them. And then they end up falling behind and have a lot of trouble in the process because they're not viewed as an athlete or challenged like one. So I think that's what I would tell any athlete if they have a big injury at the beginning. Take it serious from day one, and make sure you work with somebody that really, truly understands what you're going through. Love this question. The best injury prevention is consistent strength and conditioning. So staying in the weight room. Athletes, they need to look at the weight room like it's their second sport. With the nature of youth sports now, you basically have to specialize at an early age if you want to go play at a high level. And because of that, we're seeing a lot more injuries because kids do nothing but play one sport all year long. But they really need to look at the weight room like it's their second sport, meaning the in-season, off-season can look a lot different, but the gym never stops. So even in season right now, basketball players, they should be lifting 2 times a week at minimum. In the off-season, that can ramp up a little bit, but getting strong is going to be your best defense against injury prevention. There's no magic, magic warm-up that you can do that's going to prevent injuries. Braces don't even prevent injuries. Supplements and all that everybody's getting into, peptides and all that, that's not injury prevention. Nothing beats being strong. We'll look at this through the lens of ACL rehab again. What measures athletes can take to get injured athletes can take to get back to their sport. They've done research on this with high level athletes, and they try and figure out what are the variables that dictate whether somebody gets back to playing at a really high level again or not. And the variables that have the biggest impact are, number one, working with a sports specialist. Again, like I talked about earlier, somebody that understands sports and understands how athletes need to train. Number two is working with somebody that does testing. So I use testing for every athlete I work with, but especially ACL injuries. You have to be able to test how strong you are throughout the process to make smart decisions, because otherwise you're guessing. And number three is rehabbing through the finish line. A lot of people get cleared too early, or they get cleared by their surgeon based off of a certain amount of time, and then they go back to their sport and they stop training and stop lifting and they get hurt again. You need to train through the finish line. Getting back to your sport is part of the process. It's not the end of the road. You have to know your purpose, okay? Whether you're injured or not, you have to be able to dig deep and figure out why you care about anything you're doing, or you're not going to do it for very long. So whether it's going to college to be a doctor or whatever, a lawyer or whatever it is, whether it's playing a sport at a high level, whether it's just, I don't know, whatever you want to do in life, you can't just do it for the sake of doing it. Like if I say, why do you want to be a physical therapist? Oh, because I want to get a physical therapy degree and work as a physical therapist. Just wanting to do the thing is not good enough. It's not going to help you get there. So you have to have a deeper reason of like, for me, I want to be a physical therapist now because I'm trying to be the person that I needed back when I tore my ACLs. And I don't want an injury or pain to keep anybody else from being able to achieve their goals or be able to play their sport or whatever it is they want to do. So especially if you're injured though, you really have to know your purpose, because it's a long journey. And if you don't understand why you're going through it, it's going to be really easy to fall off and not stay consistent. So it's got to be deeper than just a game on the schedule or getting back for a certain tournament or something like that. That's not a deep enough why. You got to know, why do I care so much? Who am I doing it for? And what kind of impact am I trying to make? That's my best advice.